I'm going to show you how to paint a surf fin by taking you through my real-time process of painting an ocean surf scene on a surf fin. Obviously, you'll need a surf fin. I found a bunch of cheap surf fins in a discount bin at my favorite surf shop, but I'm sure you can also order some online or repurpose old fins of your own. You'll also need gesso. Gesso is essentially a clear or white painting medium that creates a nice base layer for applying paint to. Without it, the paint can have trouble sticking to the surface and showing up opaquely. To apply the gesso, just use a brush that you don't really care about because the gesso hardens on brushes easily and can be very difficult to remove. For cleaning your brushes and applying paint, you'll need a cup of water. For mixing colors, I recommend using a palette knife. You'll also need a variety of acrylic or mixed media brushes. Finally, you'll need acrylic paint and a palette. I use Liquitex Heavy Body acrylics, but any cheap acrylic paint should do just fine. To begin, apply 2 to 3 layers of gesso to the surface of the fin. And make sure to let each layer dry completely before adding another, because the first layer might start to peel off if you start adding more while it's still drying. Make sure to clean your brush in between layers because the gesso will crust onto it like glue if you don't. Once the gesso is dry, you can begin sketching your composition. I wanted to paint a simple photo of my friend and I surfing, which is what the reference photo is. When sketching this out, I just lightly drew in the basic shapes and lines of the waves in the water and the basic outline of the surfers. Don't worry about getting too detailed here because you're literally just going to cover it all up with paint. Now for color mixing. For the start of this painting, I used a variety of different blues, a green, and white. I began by mixing the lightest blue color, light blue permanent, with some of the green, which is a phthalo cyanine green, I think, to create a more aquamarine blue. I also added a light aqua green color to it, but this isn't that necessary because just mixing the green and light blue makes basically the same color. This color combo is going to be used in both the sky and sea in this painting. First, I started with the sky, using a small medium-sized filbert brush, which is a flat brush with a rounded tip. I take just a teeny bit of water, just enough to allow the paint to spread a bit, but not too much that it is watery and loses its opacity. With acrylic, if you want bold and opaque color, use more paint than water, which is what I recommend, especially when painting on different surfaces like a surf fin. Now to make a gradient in the sky, you gotta work a bit fast. What I do is add a little bit of white to the paint mixture until it matches the lightest shade in the sky from in the reference photo, and apply it below the dark blue. To blend it out, I clean my brush and mix a little less white into the blue until it's a happy medium between the lightest shade in the sky and the darkest. I quickly add this in between them and move my brush side to side, working up and down until the gradient looks smooth. The trick here is to work fast while the paint is still wet. If it's not looking smooth, add a little bit more of the lightest color or a little bit more of the darkest color and repeat that up and down, side to side brushstroke movement. Now for the water. The majority of the water is a little darker than the sky, so I'm going to add some ultramarine blue and a little more green to the blue sky mixture in a bit. With acrylic, I recommend painting light to dark. Like the sky, the water is a gradient, with the top section being lighter than the bottom. Basically, I just do exactly what I did in the sky, but in reverse. So I'm going to take the lightest sky color and apply it to the top section of the water. Next, I'm going to mix a slightly darker and more aqua color for the bottom section of the water and blend it out. Next, I begin creating the waves by mixing ultramarine blue and more green into the original paint mixture and painting the random blobs and lines that create the look of waves and ripples. Water is so random and is always moving, so I'm never concerned about being precise or following the reference photo exactly. To be honest, the more random and imperfect the lines and shapes, the more realistic it tends to look. Here, I'm adding in the dark line of the horizon line, using a slightly darker color as I did for the waves on the bottom, which I got by adding in more ultramarine. Then I just continue to add in lines and blobs for the waves. The closer to the horizon line, the smaller, lighter, and thinner the lines should be. This creates perspective and the illusion of depth in an artwork, as the further away something is, the less detailed, saturated, and clear it appears to the eye. It is honestly common sense, but if you want really thin and small lines, you need to use a thinner and smaller paintbrush. I used a super teeny round brush to do detail work. Change brush sizes according to the size of the element that you're painting. It will make your life so much easier. Once I got as detailed as I wanted to with the water, I began to paint the tiny surfers. To create them, I used crimson, yellow ochre, burnt sienna, and ultramarine blue. First, I mixed burnt sienna and ultramarine blue to create the dark brown of their hair, and then added even more ultramarine blue to create a natural black color. Tip: never, ever, ever use a black color straight from the paint tube. Like, never buy the color black, ever. It will make your paintings look flat, unrealistic, and black just completely overtakes a color if you mix it in with it. So don't recommend doing that if you want to have a natural look to your paintings. For the skin tone, I mixed a tiny bit of crimson and yellow and white to create a very light peachy color. Like with the tiny ripples, I used extremely small round brushes to paint them because they're basically just teeny silhouettes. So, because I ended up completely covering up the sketch of the surfers, I took some white and blocked in their outline before adding in their details. The surfers are basically just a couple lines and dots. Using a teeny brush in the brown-black color, I painted in the shape of their bodies, hair, and surfboards. One of the surfers has an orange surfboard, so I created an orange color by mixing the crimson and yellow. The other surfer has a white board that appears gray in the photo due to the shadow and positioning. To create a gray color, I added some white to the black color I created. I then added it to the bottom of each of the surfboards where the shadows were and to outline the arms of the surfer on the left. To create their arms and faces, I painted simple tiny lines and dots using the light peach color I had previously mixed. And there you have it. A simple painting on a surf fin. This was so fun and soothing to make, and I'm actually pretty happy with how it turned out. If you paint one, be sure to share it with me, I'd love to see it.